Good evening, and welcome to the monthly program, Children First, in which we present persons such as our wonderful guest tonight who are working to rekindle the spirits of children and families and to help renew their hope in the work that they're doing with the children. And I'm excited about our guest tonight. Next to me is Bill Long. I'll be introducing Attorney William Long in just one moment. And our second guest will be Dan Summons. And this evening's program is about how parents and family members can plan for the future, for their families, and then for their legacy as well. And so let me begin by introducing our guest, William Long. I just want to show you his contact information. William Long, he's an attorney, partner at McGuire Woods. And Bill, I'm going to ask you what all that means. You're an attorney.
Yes, I am. I'm a trust and estate lawyer with McGuire Woods here in Chicago.
And McGuire Woods is a law firm that's been working here in Chicago for many years.
For a long time. We merged with Ross and Hardy's about 10 years ago. So Ross and Hardy's, of course, has been a firm here in Chicago for over 100 years.
And how many years have you been a lawyer?
I've been a lawyer about 25 years.
All right. Now we're going to ask Bill about the area of his practice. And you just said your specialty is?
Trusts and estates.
And in that regard, I'm going to ask you about what people talk about all the time. What is a will?
A will is a document that is established by an individual to set forth their intentions for the assets of their estate at the time of their death.
And why should I care about having a will?
Well, if you don't have a will, then you would be subject to the laws of intestacy in the state of Illinois. The state has written a statute for those individuals, and it happens quite often, who don't have a will. And it basically states where your assets are going to go depending on who survives you, what heirs are living. And if there are no heirs living, then it's going to go to the state of Illinois. So that's one reason alone that you should individuals would want to make sure where their assets are going. And if they don't have heirs, maybe they'd prefer that they go to a charity.
So if our listeners are thinking that when they pass on, whatever they have will go to a family, a friend, a special cause, but they haven't written a will, they're going to be very surprised to learn tonight that that doesn't happen automatically.
Absolutely not. Like I said, it has to go through the court process. The state of Illinois has rules, and it's usually going to require an actual probate proceeding where someone will have to be appointed by the court to administer the decedent's estate. And again, where it's going to go is dictated by these statutes.
So, Bill, what should our listeners do? The first step, they're realizing tonight, or they've realized before, and you're helping them remember that they have to do some planning if they want to make the decisions about whatever assets they have when they pass on. What is the first step?
Well, that's right. And you know, I often get the question of who should have a will, and I think any adult that has accumulated some assets, all adults should have a will, but particularly if you have children, because you can use the will to name the guardians of your children, you know, should you die, and that's far better result to have that direction in place rather than perhaps family members fighting over who's going to be the guardian. So you can establish that through a will. And like I said, as soon as adults start accumulating assets, I'd say that's the time to start thinking about having a will.
And if they do make this will, do they need to review it every so often?
You know, the law has been changing in this area almost every year, and so we're telling clients that they probably should review their document if it's been a few years, 3 to 5 years. They should definitely check in and make sure it's and also circumstances will change in their family. Maybe who they've named as an executor is not the best person now that 5 years have passed. So I think it's good to get an update at least every 3 to 5 years.
And what if our listeners have a child with some special needs, or maybe an adult child with some special needs, and they're concerned, what's going to happen to my child when I pass on? Is there something particular that they can do to plan for their child?
Yeah, that's a great question, because so many of these special needs children or adults are receiving governmental benefits. And if they suddenly inherit a large sum of money, then they may not be eligible for those benefits. So what lawyers can set up is a supplemental needs trust that can be used to give the trustee of the trust the discretion to provide extra benefits to the individual, and he or she won't lose those other benefits they've had for years.
Now, let me just ask you, could you tell our listeners a little more about what a trust is?
Sure. A trust is a document that you can set up during your lifetime, and it can be active immediately, or it can be a trust that comes to life, so to speak, upon your death. And, most of our clients actually use a form of trust during their lifetime. And they do this, a revocable trust or a living trust, sometimes called a loving trust. They do this because it also will allow them to avoid the probate process. And that's certainly important upon death. A probate process is a public forum, whereas a trust is private. And the trust also provides the benefit of if someone became incapacitated but they're still living, the trustees that they've named can step up and take care of them without the need of involving the courts.
And so when you say a probate, you're saying the matter has to go to court. And, of course, lawyers will be involved, and a judge will be making the decisions. So why would one, what if I said, it won't cost me any more money, I don't care if it goes to probate. Is that a false belief on my part?
Well, the probate process, like I said, can be avoided. The probate process is a public forum. Anybody can go over and look at a will. And so a lot of clients like the privacy of using a trust. But the probate process is one that once it starts, it has to be open for at least 6 months. Creditors have the right to come in and file their claims. It usually takes longer than that to get the assets together, and a judge is going to be court supervising this process. And so there's definitely some added cost for attorneys to go in and take care of this and close the estate. And all told, with the tax returns that often need to be filed, you're talking about probably a year. And so that whole process can be avoided. That time and expense can be avoided by using trust.
Now, if a listener is thinking about some of this planning and says, I have a special needs child, or I have some other particular interest, do they consult a lawyer to try to help them with this?
Yes. You're going to need a lawyer to draft the documents for you. I mean, there's services that you can buy them online, but I really can't recommend that, especially if you've got a child with special needs, because that takes a unique trust document that has to be done correctly. So yes, see a lawyer and get the will drawn up, and it can be a simple will, or it can be rather complex depending on what the client needs.
Now, are there some taxes that have to be paid when a person dies?
Yes, there are.
What would those taxes be?
There's as in 2011, Illinois now has an estate tax again. It did not have it in 2010. So there's going to be an Illinois estate tax if the individual has an estate that's greater than $2 million. Now, the federal system also has an estate tax, but it gives a $5 million exemption. But if you have clients who are over 5, they're going to pay a federal tax and a state of Illinois tax. If they're over 2, they're going to be paying some Illinois tax. It's anywhere from 8 to 16% of the amount over $2 million.
All right. So that's something else that the person preparing the will would discuss with their lawyer, is what their tax responsibilities will be.
Right. And to put it in perspective, a couple, a married couple that had, let's say, $4 million, if they don't have the right planning, they're going to pay about $260,000 in Illinois estate tax that could easily be avoided by setting up the right kind of plan, which you'll need to see a lawyer for that.
Now, what would be some of the common misconceptions, Bill, that you find people have about preparing a will or a trust?
Well, you've got to address some issues with that a lot of people, I think, hesitate. You need to think about if some of your children, for example, have greater needs than the other. You're going to have to consider what how your personal property is going to be distributed, and you have to make decisions and thoughts about death, and that's uncomfortable for many people. But I can tell you that addressing those issues while you're living is going to make your family's transition after your passing so much smoother and take away any doubt or confusion that can occur when someone does not have a will. So I think it's just difficult for some people to face the issue, but they really should, for the benefit of making sure their intentions are fulfilled and for their family.
We're talking with Bill Long, and I want to just show you his contact information one more time here, because we're giving you the opportunity to hear from an attorney who's been practicing in the area of estates for some time. Bill is a partner with McGuire Woods, and in that capacity he's prepared a great number of wills and trusts to help clients. And Bill has just talked about the importance of our preparing for passing on, looking at estates, and preparing for children and other family members, and making sure that the person who's preparing the will is making the decisions instead of someone else, because no will was prepared. I want to thank Bill, and I want to invite Dan Summons, who's just joined me. As you can tell, this is not Bill now, this is Dan. And Dan is going to pick up from where Bill was speaking. And Dan, I'm going to ask you to talk about, first, the kind of work that you're in.
Well, I'm in the development department. I'm the Associate Director of Development for Maryville. And my responsibilities include plan giving, as well as major gifts, and we get involved in events and working with individuals who want to help the children of Maryville.
And this evening, you're going to help us talk about decisions people can make in planned giving so that they can leave a legacy. Is that right?
Absolutely. Planned giving is really, Sister, a gift of a lifetime. It's a chance for you to, after you've accumulated assets, to make sure that those assets continue to work for you, to provide resources not only for your family, but for nonprofits, your church, other issues that you'd like to see after you've passed.
And when you speak with people about this, what do you think are the common misconceptions that they're expressing?
The biggest one is that this is a process for wealthy people. And the fact of the matter is that there's probably about 200,000 estates that give money to charity in the United States annually. 1.5% are taxable estates. So very few are actually of a level high enough to be taxed by the federal government. It's for people that want to take control of their financial futures and make sure their assets continue to work for them after they're gone.
And do you find that sometimes people say, I'm just not sure if I have enough money to give the kind of gift I'd like to give to any charity, if there would just be some way where I could make sure my money lasts through my lifetime, then I'd be comfortable giving a gift. Would that be a common feeling?
You do. You hear that quite frequently. And also, people are living longer. It's not unusual for people to live in their 70s, 80s, know people who've lived to be 100 years old. So that's a legitimate concern. But at the same time, with careful planning, with a little penny saved is a penny earned, you can provide resources for the future, well into the future.
Well, just as I was asking Bill Long, what's a first step for people if they're thinking about preparing a will? What's a first step if a person says, well, I'd like to look toward my legacy gift. I'm taking care of my family, and then I have something that I can give as kind of a legacy gift. What is their first step?
Well, the first step is to see the things that you're supporting today. Organizations that you're comfortable with, that you've got trust in, maybe you've volunteered or have some personal experience with. And you want to be able to say, these are the things that are important to me in life, and these are the things I'd like to continue to support in the future.
And then what does one do?
Well, I would recommend that finds excellent legal representation,
right,
like Bill, and find someone to help you walk through the process of identifying what your needs are going to be. You do need to think about what your financial needs will be in the future, what your lifestyle choices will be, what you'd like to see your children, grandchildren, other family members to receive, and then what of your nonprofit children, what they'd like to receive in your will as well.
And when you talk to people, what are their common questions?
Well, the first question is they're always concerned about taxes. They're worried about the legalities, and that's our job then is to turn them over to someone like Bill and say, Bill, you need to take care of them in the best possible way. Our job is really to talk to them about the things that are important to them personally, what kind of things they've really enjoyed and gave them some satisfaction in life, and they'd like to see it continue even after they're gone.
And that after you have those conversations, do you find that people need some time to think about it?
Oh, it's a process. The planned giving is actually a process where we begin to talk to people who are currently supporting a charity and then walk through the steps about what their future looks like, what they'd like to achieve financially, and then what they'd like to do in the future. This often takes 6 months, a year, 18 months for people really to decide what they'd like to do, and then then the process becomes more technical. We got attorneys, tax people involved as well.
Now, Dan, I'm going to turn the tables on you a little bit, and I'm going to say, what kinds of questions do people have a right to ask charities before they make the decision that that's the charity they want to leave a gift to?
I think they should ask any question that comes to mind. Charities have an obligation to be transparent and be clear about when someone gives us a gift, what we use that money for. What percentage of those dollars go to help the people that the charity is supposed to be serving. They should have some personal experience, whether it's volunteering, visiting the charity, checking out their financial statements. They should have a good handle exactly on what the charity does, how efficient they are, and how effective they are in carrying out their mission.
And when you tell people that they have a right to ask those questions, do you find that they say, oh, I'm going to go do that, or do they hesitate somewhat?
Well, I'm in a very fortunate position of working for Maryville Academy, and most of our donors have got long, lifetime experiences with Maryville and have a great deal of trust. They've trusted Maryville. They trust you personally, sister, and it's humbling, and it's a great obligation for us to continue that trust. We do have our financial statements available if they're interested. We'd like to have them come out and visit our campuses, meet some of the children and staff that we're working with, and make sure that people really get a sense of the important impact they're having for young people.
And Dan, I think that we want to tell our viewers that one reason we're talking about estate planning tonight is, yes, we're very happy to talk about our services at Maryville, but the reason we asked Bill Long to come tonight to talk about estate planning, and you as well, is because everyone knows that charities are having a difficult time. All charities are having a difficult time in this economic environment. And we urge our viewers first to plan for their own families, and then also as a part of that planning to look at how they can make a legacy gift that will help the charities of their choice, so that we as a society can continue this good charitable work even in this difficult environment. So I'm putting that plea out. We want our viewers to know that this is about taking care of families and taking care of our charitable families that are also serving the community. And so I come back now to Dan, as I've said that to our listeners. Dan, what else can you tell our viewers that you think would be helpful to them in looking at this kind of way of supporting those causes that they believe are beneficial to society, where they want to leave their legacy?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the one way to look at it, sister, is people, most of us are very fortunate. We've had a tremendous gift from the generations that preceded us. Our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents have supported the churches and nonprofit organizations like Maryville for decades. In Maryville, over 125 years now. And it's our obligation to continue to make that support so it's available to generations that follow us.
And what are some different ways that people make these gifts?
Well, as Bill mentioned earlier, there are wills and trusts, but there's also a simple mention, make Maryville as your life insurance beneficiary. You can make a payment from your IRA contribution or a pension fund. So those things can be set up very simply. You can literally add the name of Maryville to your life insurance policy and we'll be the beneficiary.
And is there any particular time that's better than another time for our listeners to be thinking about their charitable gifts?
There's no time like the present. I will tell you that because it is a planning process and a legal process, there are several steps you need to take. The earlier you get started, the earlier you take control of your financial future, the better you'll be.
And during tax time, actually before tax time, at the end of the calendar year, don't we find that a lot of people are thinking about, I do want to make a gift anyway, and it would be more beneficial for me, tax-wise, if I would make a gift at this point?
You can make a gift at any time, and part of as an annual fund gift, we're happy to always accept a gift at Maryville. But I would also say that in a planned gift, is a deferred gift that's made today that will enjoy the benefits are in the future. The planning starts today. The planning about what we want our futures to look like financially, what we'd like our children and heirs to inherit, as well as we would like our favorite organizations to benefit in the future.
I want to remind our viewers, Dan, of your name, Dan Summons, and Dan is our Associate Director of Development, and he's sharing with us how to make a legacy gift, different ways to make legacy gifts if we want to help support charities. I'm going to bring the conversation back to you, Dan, and I'm going to ask you to tell us if there are some other ways that you're suggesting that people think about legacy gifts. Sometimes we don't realize what it is we have that we can give that will benefit a charity.
Sure. Well, often your estate is complicated. It's not just the cash you have on hand or the money you'll have in a pension plan or a 401k. You also include hard assets, your home, maybe a second home. So there are other ways there are lots of things that can be added up and included in your estate. All those pieces, even a fractional piece of your home, can be given away in your will or a trust.
And now, Dan, what is perhaps the greatest misconception that you find people have when they're thinking about making this gift?
They think it's not for them. They think that planned giving is for somebody else to do, and someone else will take care of the needs of the children, our children here in the state of Illinois in the future. And I think the reality is, and we've seen in our own experience, is that it is each and every one of us trust to take care of the children of the future. If we wait, there will be no one left to take care of the children.
Now, I'd like to ask Dan to talk just a little bit about when we do invite people to give to the Maryville as their charity of choice, to just talk a little bit about what he is conversing with our donors. How can they be sure this money is well used?
Well, it starts, I believe, with our financial statements, and we're very happy to say that 94 cents out of every dollar given to Maryville goes directly to help a child or a family in need. And we're very proud of that. And I would also tell you that when people come out, they do get a chance to visit one of our campuses and meet some of the young people that we're working with. It's a powerful testament to the impact that we're having with children all over northern Illinois.
And those programs include a number of ways that we can help children. Isn't that true, Dan? Mm-hmm. We do have outreach programs to try to help families when they're in difficult times, so that we can keep families together if that's at all possible. We do have programs for children who unfortunately are not able to be with their families at this time. The court has decided that, and so we can provide homes for these children as well. They're our children. We also have a therapeutic day school, and our children can benefit because one of the most important gifts that we can give our children is the opportunity for a good education so that they're prepared for the future. And so these are some of the kinds of programs that we can make available for children. And those good people, you and others who contribute to these programs, make them possible. They don't happen without your support. And I will say the same for the other charities. It won't happen without support, so that our charities can continue in our society at this time, especially in these difficult economic times. Now, Dan, I'm going to give you a chance to have a final comment to our viewers.
Well, it's truly, for me, a privilege to be a part of the Maryville staff and see the wonderful work that every staff member gives to literally thousands of children they're helping every year at Maryville. And I encourage people, if you're interested in learning more about it, to contact me. We'll set up a time to come out and really see what's going on firsthand. Once you do that, it will change your perception not only of Maryville, but of the children that we're working with.
I want to give you Dan's contact information one more time so that you know how to reach him if you would like to. As you can see, his phone number and also his email address, as well as the website for Maryville Academy. And so, Dan, I want to thank you for coming with us this evening and sharing about giving legacy gifts. I want to thank Bill Long for talking with us this evening, helping our viewers understand how they can prepare so that you and I, can make decisions about what happens with our assets instead of someone else who makes those decisions because we didn't leave a written legal document that directs how those assets should be handled.
Right.
We thank all of you. We hope you'll join us again next week for Children First.